Good evening. Today is Sunday and you join me for a gin and tonic, although I've still got quite a few chores that I need to do around the house before I sort of kick back and relax and enjoy the evening. When creating this channel, I had quite a few topic ideas in mind that I wanted to talk about. So they range from career topics, so talking about my time working in sales and how I transitioned to project management, discussing my experience at university and my thoughts on whether or not it's worth it with the student loan repayments, mental health and well-being, talking a little bit about anxiety and my experiences with that. But today's topic is a personal finance topic and I want to talk about Coast Fire. So for anyone who's unaware, Coast Fire is the point at which you can stop saving for retirement and your current savings, your existing savings, will continue to grow and compound, enabling you to reach your target retirement without contributing anymore. So it's essentially front loading your savings early on, enabling yourself to really have that little bit of freedom in the sense of you no longer need to be contributing to your pension. So you can take that hit, you can earn a little bit less money, or you can go traveling. There's a whole load of things that people do once they've reached Coast Fire. For me, the reason why it is so enticing, and I think there are definitely some sort of psychological reasons around my family history and growing up in a pretty poor family, I think ultimately has had some psychological impacts on my relationship with money and a little bit of scarcity and just not wanting to spend money. But I think the big reason for me why I want to achieve Coast Fire is, well, there are two reasons really. The first one is going down to part-time hours. So one of my big goals, hopefully within the next sort of 4 or 5 years, is to go down to 4 days a week and then maybe 3.5 days a week. And the reason being there is I actually do generally quite enjoy my job, but ultimately it is still a job and it's probably not how I would choose to spend my day. What I would love to then do with that additional free time that I've got. So it's not about not working for me, but it's about making money doing something that I'm really passionate about. So the second reason why I want to achieve Coast Fire is so I can take some risks and start my own business. So I live in a really beautiful part of Cornwall, and I just think there's a huge opportunity for me to live a very nice, quiet life, opening and running a little wine bar somewhere. And if I've hit Coast Fire, it takes a lot of that pressure off for it to sort of make a ton of money. All it needs to do is make enough money for it to keep on sort of ticking over and for me to make a comfortable living, but I don't necessarily need to worry about stashing loads of money into my pension. Or another thing that actually does appeal to me, so again, like I mentioned, living in Cornwall, there are seasonal beach restaurants and things that are open at one of the beaches near me. And I once spoke to one of the owners of these beach restaurants and I asked her what she does during the winter. And she looked at me as if I was some silly corporate slave and went, well, I travel Europe during the winter, of course, so we stay open during the summer and then over Europe we go traveling. And I was thinking, wow, or over winter we go traveling. And I was thinking, wow, that's a nice life. I think ultimately I like the idea of the freedom and the security that comes with having a decent amount of money behind you. So there's an app on the App Store called Coast Fire Calculator, and this is what I have been using to get to my Coast Fire number. And I think this video, what I'm going to do is talk you through my numbers, some of the reasonings behind the numbers and the growth rates, etc. And then in future videos, if people are interested, I'll talk you through my portfolios, so my stocks and shares ISA, what I've actually got my money invested in, and also my pensions, so the investment choices I've made with my pension as well. But those will be different videos. So I'm recording my screen now. My current age is 27. I'm actually sort of 27 and a half, but the app doesn't let me put 27 and a half. So let's just go 27. I'm going to say that my target retirement age is 57. So I think realistically, if I'm doing something that I enjoy doing. When you're 27, 57 sounds really old, but my dad is in his 60s and he is still working, he's still in good health, and he doesn't seem old basically. And he is putting off retiring because he doesn't, well, A, they can't afford it, but also he likes what he does for a living. So I'm going to put 57 just so you've got the flexibility in the choices, but it might be that hopefully I enjoy what I'm doing with my sort of coast fire life and want to continue working. Yeah, and this also, oh yeah, another reason why 57 is a good number is because it ties into like when you can access your private pension in the UK. That number might change, but the way that I'll be managing my money is that if the age that you can access your private pension is pushed back a few years, I should have enough money in my stocks and shares ISA, allowing me to sort of still reach my target retirement age. So my target income, I'm going to say in today's money, is £24,000, right? And this is just my contributions. So my partner, fiance, as of only a few weeks ago, she's got her own savings, so she's got a pension that she contributes to and a stocks and shares ISA, etc. So this £24,000 is just what I am bringing to the party. And I think that £24,000 is actually quite a lot, because you look at the calculators online. I think there's a tool that says that to have like a basic level of retirement, you need like 24k. And then to have a decent retirement, you need 30k. I think that 24,000 is actually a pretty good number for me in today's numbers, because I'm assuming that I will have paid off my mortgage. So this house, whatever house we're living in, will be mortgage free. And really, I don't live like a super expensive life. I don't imagine myself ever wanting an expensive car. I'll have a car, but I don't imagine myself wanting an expensive car or anything like that. It's just enough money for me to have hobbies. A lot of my hobbies are very cheap because, again, I surf, kayak, paddleboard, etc. So they're all sort of buy once the equipment and then enjoy the hobby for free for as long as you like. So I think £24,000 is realistic. I genuinely think that's a good amount of money. And then if my partner brings, let's say, another 15,000, between us, we'll have a good amount of money. I'm assuming an inflation rate of 2.5% in all of these calculations, and I am going to adjust the contributions by the inflation rate over time as well. Right, so current pension value, I've just had a look, and that is £31,500. And I think my monthly contribution before Coast is going to be about £650. That is, so I'm contributing 11% of my income, and then my company match with 10%. And every time I get a pay rise, I'm hoping to go for a few promotions over the next sort of 2 years. Every time I get a pay rise, I'm going to increase my contributions by 1%, probably to about 14%. I think my contributions after Coast, so realistically, once I've got in the habit of saving money, it should still come naturally. So I'm not planning to hit my Coast Fire number and never sort of save again into my pension. I think the way that the private sector pensions work in the UK is always quite tax efficient. And I think no matter what, I would be contributing like 3.5% of my income, and my employer would also be matching that. So I'm going to say in today's money, realistically, I think I'll be able to contribute about £150 into my pension, sort of in the long run, and it not be too big of a deal. So current investments, this is my stocks and shares ISA, which is about £28,500. Again, like I mentioned, I will talk about in a different video what I've got that invested in. I saved and sacrificed a lot to get my stocks and shares ISA up to this amount of money. And the contributions, I think realistically, is going to be £400. So I proposed to my partner about a month ago now in Paris, and we are now saving for a wedding. And I think that it's a very delicate balance trying to achieve sort of financial independence and savings targets and saving for the future while also enjoying your life now, because ultimately this future that you're saving for isn't guaranteed. So I won't be saving as much into my investments because I'm going to be saving for a sort of a nice wedding with my partner. And again, I think that after I've hit my Coast Fire number, I'm going to say I'm going to put £100. I reckon I can continue saving into my ISA over the long run pretty comfortably, £100 a month, no matter what it is that I'm doing. I think that is a realistic target. I press the calculate button. So this is saying to achieve a target income of £24,000 in today's money using a 4% withdrawal rate, I'll need a pot of £600,000. Adjusted for inflation, my target income is now £50,000 and my target pot is 1.2 million. So it says that I'm actually going to be able to reach my Coast Fire age at the age of 30. So like I said, I'm 27 and a half, and this isn't able to take that into consideration. So sort of 30 and a half, 31 maybe. And my Coast Fire number is 109,000. And this is assuming a growth rate of 7.72% in my pension, which I think is, I did look into it, that's the average expected, or the average growth rate of a pension in the UK. And then my stocks and shares ISA, I've put an expected return of 8%. So in this app, there is an option to reduce the return. So I've got that by 1%. So the cautious approach is saying, so that's with a 6.5 and a 7% return, that 35 is my Coast Fire age and my number is £225,000. I think realistically, what I'm gonna try and do is go somewhere in the middle. So I'm gonna try and get to, let's say, £150,000, £160,000, have a decent amount of the house paid off as well. And that's when I think I will feel comfortable enough and confident in either reducing my hours or starting to save to start my own business. That's like a real big goal of mine over the next few years. But it is a real delicate balancing act of living today and saving for tomorrow. A few other things that you might have noticed is that, first of all, I've not included the state pension in any of my calculations. So I think it's £900 a month or something at the moment. Reason being is I don't know how guaranteed the state pension is by the time that I'm 67, and I'd rather not plan my retirement assuming a pot of money that I'm never going to get. So that's why I've not included my state pension, although I do pay into it with national insurance. I think there's a really difficult conversation that needs to take place in the UK at the moment around the state pension and sort of people my age paying into it, and whether or not we're going to get something back or if it's going to be means tested. And yeah, it's a very difficult one, but that's why I have not included the state pension in it. I have seen other Coast Fire videos where people, in my opinion, are maybe a little bit misleading. So they'll show that you only need a really small pot to achieve your Coast Fire, but they'll actually push back the target retirement age to when typical state pensions kick in, so something along the lines of like 67. So for example, this is saying that I'm at my target, I've reached Coast Fire at 60k. If I push back my target retirement age to 67, I think that if that's what you want to do, that's okay. But I think they're a little bit cheeky in their assumptions of such a long time horizon when they do those videos, because I think a lot of people, when they're thinking of their retirement, they're probably thinking of retiring a little bit earlier than sort of 67. One thing that I wish this calculator did include, right, is probably as I get 5 to 10 years out to retirement, I'll start de-risking my portfolio. So going from owning the world in my stocks and shares ISA, like a FTSE All World, to owning some bonds and just diversifying a little bit out of equities to sort of safe cash or interest-bearing assets, which will reduce my expected return quite substantially. And a lot of the compound growth with these calculators, a lot of the growth takes place over those last few years, because that's when you've got the most money in there and you're still assuming a 7-8% growth rate, when realistically those last few years, which are really important, you can expect a lower growth rate if you're planning on de-risking, which I personally would be planning on doing. So that's one thing that this calculator doesn't do. And I think that maybe my way of getting around that is just putting into the calculator, for example, 57 with the intention of probably working until I'm 60, and then those 3 years, or like of not fully retiring until I'm 60, and then those 3 years there's an opportunity for me to start de-risking during that time, and then it's also more time for sort of compound growth. Anyway, I hope this video was interesting. Do subscribe if you want to hear more personal finance stuff, career videos, working in tech sales in the UK, discussions on university, lots of just sort of me sharing my thoughts about things. I hope you found it enjoyable. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.